Hi everyone, Hannah Lee Jones. Some of you may know me through writing, some of you go way back with me to high school or college, and others of you know me from work. And like many of you, I wear a variety of hats, but in this video, I'm appearing in my capacity as the founder and executive director of the Ndoto Project, a small nonprofit that's been around since 2010. And the mission of the project is to empower young people in Kenya through education. So I'll just say this up front. I've never done this kind of video before, and frankly, the fact that I'm putting my voice out there on the web in this way terrifies me. But I'm doing it because I need your help. More specifically, two young people in Kenya need your help. They need money to go to college, and I've taken it upon myself to convince you to support them. So here we go. Back in 2009, I took a trip to Western Kenya with an organization called the Center for International Voluntary Service, or CIVS, working with kids who'd been orphaned by the HIV and AIDS crisis. There was a whole group of international volunteers there, and we dug fish ponds, we planted vegetables together, we played soccer with the kids. The whole experience was incredible, but the most incredible thing for me, and it wound up changing my life, was meeting the young Kenyans who were working there alongside me. There were five of them, and at the time they ranged in age from 19 to 24. As I got to know them over mealtimes and just generally hanging out, I learned a lot of things. For one, just how bright they were. For example, John, who would later become one of our students, he could rattle off the names of US senators, which is more than most US citizens can manage. But their brightness was really not all that surprising. What got me was that they were not in school. And what I would eventually learn was that free compulsory education in Kenya, just like in the United States, ends after grade 12. And after that, young people are forced to compete for scholarships based on test scores. And if they fail to get a scholarship, they basically can't go to college unless they can pay their own way. And I probably don't need to go into the stats on poverty in Africa for you to know that this is where the story turns bad. In the US, if you don't have a college degree, you can at least get a low wage job. In Kenya, if you don't have a college degree, you'll be lucky if you can even find a job hauling gravel. So, as I was preparing to leave after my time in Kenya was up, one of these young people, Esther, she took me aside in one of the classrooms at the orphanage and she sat me down. She took my hands inside of hers and she said to me, Hannah, I hope you will forgive me for what I'm about to ask you. And so this is where it began. I returned home from Kenya and I spoke with my husband, Phil, about it. And we agreed that this wasn't something that we could just forget about. We decided to sponsor five students, including Esther and including John, whom I mentioned earlier. And with $4,000, which we just received through our home buyer's tax credit, we started the Ndoto Project. At the time, I was working full time as a clerk at the University of Washington, and I knew squat about nonprofit management, but I learned the ropes as I went. We opened a fiscal sponsorship account with our partner Visions Made Viable, another nonprofit based out of Irvine, California, and we got to work. The word Ndoto in Swahili means dream or vision, and we chose that name because the dreams of these students, once you hear them, are kind of hard to forget. Esther's goal is to become a journalist covering human rights and women's rights issues in East Africa. In Houston, one of our quieter students whom we haven't managed to enroll in a program just yet, he'll send videos every few months covering what he's been up to, which is usually feeding children at orphanages across the country through his organization, Sawa Africa. And it's something he's clearly passionate about doing and will be doing for years to come. And so that just gives you a glimpse. Some basic stats for you as well. A college education in Kenya for one person costs about 710,000 Kenyan shillings for a 4-year program, which is about 7,000 US dollars excluding room and board. It's striking that this is pretty inexpensive compared with a college education in the US. This was part of my argument for doing this project in the first place. I, for one, got involved in this work because I knew these students. I'd spent time with them in Kenya. They were my friends. But over time, I've been lucky enough to gather a board of directors consisting of my US friends, many of whom have never been to Kenya. And there's been very little turnover since we began 6 years ago. And so it really speaks to their commitment to the lives of these students whom they've gotten to know. They've stuck by me through $38,000 worth of fundraising and communication back and forth with the students. It's been one hell of a journey, and it seems to me, looking back now, like we've done it all. We've taken the old school approach, doing bake sales, concerts, pizza dinners. A couple of our board members have put on silly hats and ridden stationary bicycles in Pike Place Market in Seattle. A bunch of us biked 1,000 miles from Seattle to San Francisco in the summer of 2011. And just when it seemed like we were running out of ideas, we lucked into a partnership with a company called Northwest Alpine Guides, and they took our fundraising from a measly 1,000 here and 1,000 there to $14,000 in 2014, 2015 alone with a single fundraising climb of Mount Rainier. So for a large NGO, this amount probably feels like nothing, but to a small organization like ours, it is huge. What brings me online today to make this ask is that through no fault of anyone's, our usual sources of funding have fallen through. and we were not able to organize a climb in 2016. Fortunately, the amount of funding we need is small. But first, how far have we come in terms of our mission with all that money? Well, it's carried 3 students all the way through their undergraduate careers. Almost. John Kamel, our first student, graduated from his program in computer science last year and is now working at a tech job in Switzerland. But what brings me online to make this ask specifically is that James and Esther are approaching the finish line with their degrees, and we need only $900 to help get them to graduation. So to break it down, James is finishing his degree in multimedia journalism at Kenya Methodist University in Nairobi, and his graduation fee is $60. Esther is finishing her degree at Mount Kenya University in Nakuru and is about to enter her final term, and the remainder of that $900 would be her tuition. She's very bright, by the way, one of our top performing students in terms of high marks. In preparing for this video, I've pulled some statements by James and Esther from our correspondence and records to share with our prospective donors to give you a sense of the lives and vision of these 2 young people, which I'll now read to you. The first is from Esther, who has been involved with an organization called Initiatives of Change, or IOFC, an organization dedicated to building trust across the world's divides of culture and ethnic difference, which, as many of you know, in Africa is an ongoing challenge with its history of tribal conflict. She says here, this IOFC work, day in, day out, keeps improving my skills as a youth leader. I gain a lot of confidence with each passing activity, and trust me, now I believe I have the skills to give a speech at a UN gathering if I was offered the chance. Also, I volunteer with the university radio at Egerton University, which, by the way, is not where she goes to school, but she's obviously involved there, where I run a morning breakfast show dubbed Breakfast Baraza. This always gives me a forum to engage my fellow youth in responsible and constructive conversations. I truly believe that I am still headed far. I believe that I have a responsibility to mentor youth in the way I also have been mentored. I believe we need someone to trust and believe in us, and to give us the direction and make us understand that there are consequences to every choice we make in life, no matter how small those choices may seem. And then here's James sharing at a much more personal level about his general philosophy in life, which I have always found inspiring. He writes, if you lack purpose, you don't touch that many people. You can touch people by your experience of tragedy, far better than you can by having a perfect life. Even with my imperfect life, my focus is on the future. I am nervous about it, but it's not up to me, and no earthly person knows the future. My happiness is more in alliance with God. The future is not in my hands, but there are things I hope for. World peace, equality, and tolerance. To make it through life, you need faith to cling to, and laughter too. So that's James, and I'm not sure if I myself could have said it any better. I hope these words inspire you to give, and to close, I'll just throw in there that I'm aware that this video coincides with the run up to Give Big, the May 3rd campaign for nonprofits here in the state of Washington. We are not part of Give Big, but regardless of where you are in the country, I'd like to ask you to give big anyway in the literal sense of giving big. This is a cause that's truly global. And as the leader of this project, I'll be the first to admit that I still forget in the swarm of everyday concerns, causes, interests that seems so much more immediate to my experience, that there's this whole struggling world out there consisting of our human family, a family for whom we can care. So give big. And if you're moved to do so, please share this video and the links that come with it. We're running this campaign through a website called Chuffed, which is like a Kickstarter, but it's for nonprofits. And it's much more forgiving if you don't meet your fundraising goal. At least with this website, you still get to keep whatever money you raise. All gifts are tax deductible. You can find the link below. You'll find there also a video of our students talking about their experiences with the project. And if you visit our website at ndotoproject.org, you can find profiles of the individual students we support, including James and Esther. And I know you'll find them as inspiring and amazing as I did when I first met them that fall day back in 2009. And so if you've made it to the end of this video, I so appreciate your watching this. Give generously, whether it's out there on Facebook land or in person or some combination of both. Thank you for being my friend and for being part of my life. And thank you all for listening.